Yeah. Hi. Hi.
John Green.
Yeah. That's true. I should just steal other people's video footage. That will work.
So, a warm welcome from everyone. John Green, welcome in Munich.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here. This is my fourth time in Munich, but my first time with such many people.
So, how are you?
Good. Yeah, very happy to be here. Happier than I will be at 11. You guys get the show with energy. At 11 I will be very tired, but no, this is amazing.
Gibt es denn Leute, die auf der Zweitlesung auch noch sind?
Ja.
Tatsächlich. Kompliment und das ist auch die Anstrengung für uns, das sind natürlich die Interviews, dass wir uns da ein bisschen variieren müssen. Wir steigen jetzt aufs Dach. They come twice.
Oh.
Some of them. Can you believe it?
Yeah, that's a terrible use of resources.
So, John, how do you like Germany?
I like it here very much. There's a lot to like about Germany, of course. You guys have healthcare. That's cool. We're jealous of that. You have excellent infrastructure. Someone said to me in Hamburg, the trains no longer run on time, and I said, "You have trains." But no, I've always loved being here, and I've always had great support from the German readers and also from my German publisher Hanser and my editor who's here tonight, Saskia Heinz, and that it's always a great thrill to be here.
Does Germany like you?
Better now. No, yes, but I've always had a lot of readers in Germany. It's always been one of the biggest countries for my books, and it's also one of the biggest countries for the video blogs I make with my brother. So yeah, it's always been one of the non-English speaking countries. It is in fact the biggest.
Are you gonna tell in your video blog about this trip? Do you know?
Yeah, I would have loved to make a lot of videos while I was here with my camcorder. So I don't have a camcorder. Apple didn't make my camcorder. Canon did. Yeah, so I guess I will have to tell him about the trip because I can't show him much about the trip except for the films I made on my phone. So yeah, but I mean, I always tell him that he should come to Germany with me, and then he never does. So
maybe you'll get something.
Yeah. Hi.
Hi. John Green.
Yeah. That's true. I should just steal other people's video footage. That will work. Yeah.
Stars. Du hast es dabei, sonst leichte meins. You got it? Or you need mine?
Oh, I'll take yours. Yeah. I'm gonna borrow hers, but I'll just borrow yours. That's fine.
Okay. Original Fingerabdruck.
Did you pre-order this?
No, of course not.
Bist du schon, wie heißt du?
Birgit.
Birgit.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Don't even try spelling that.
Brigid. I've been in Germany a long time, man. I can spell a lot of your names. Hold on, let me finish this, and then yeah. Where am I? Munich.
You have to have. I read from your book.
Oh yeah. Good idea. All right.
Gut. Und dann gebe ich jetzt ab. John Green.
So Hazel and Augustus, the two main characters of this story, have are just meeting, and Hazel is going to the support group she goes to for her cancer that has other cancer kids in it, and a boy is staring at her. I pulled out my phone and clicked it so it would display the time, 4:59. The circle filled in with the unlucky 12 to 18s, and then Patrick started us out with the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The guy was still staring at me. I felt rather blushy. Finally, I decided that the proper strategy was to stare back. Boys don't have a monopoly on the staring business, after all. So I looked him over as Patrick acknowledged for the 1000th time his balllessness, etc. And soon it was a staring contest. After a while, the boy smiled, and finally his blue eyes glanced away. When he looked back at me, I flicked my eyebrows up to say, "I win." He shrugged. Patrick continued, and then finally it was time for introductions. "Isaac, perhaps you'd like to go first today. I know you're facing a challenging time." "Yeah," Isaac said. "I'm Isaac, I'm 17, and it's looking like I have to get surgery in a couple of weeks, after which I'll be blind. Not to complain or anything, because I know a lot of us have it worse, but yeah, I mean, being blind does sort of suck. My girlfriend helps, though, and friends like Augustus." He nodded toward the boy, who now had a name. "We're here for you, Isaac," Patrick said. "Let Isaac hear it, guys." And then we all, in a monotone, said, "We're here for you, Isaac." There were 5 others before they got to him. He smiled a little when his turn came. His voice was low, smoky, and dead sexy. "My name's Augustus Waters," he said. "I'm 17. I had a little touch of osteosarcoma about a 1.5 years ago, but I'm just here today at Isaac's request." "And how are you feeling?" asked Patrick. "Oh, I'm grand." Augustus Waters smiled with the corner of his mouth. "I'm on a roller coaster that only goes up, friend." When it was my turn, I said, "My name's Hazel. I'm 16, thyroid with mets in my lungs. I'm okay." The hour proceeded apace. Fights were recounted, battles won amid wars sure to be lost. Hope was clung to, families were both celebrated and denounced. Neither Augustus Waters nor I spoke again until Patrick said, "Augustus, perhaps you'd like to share your fears with the group." "My fears?" "Yes. I fear oblivion," he said without a moment's pause. "I fear it like the proverbial blind man who's afraid of the dark." "Too soon," Isaac said, cracking a smile. "Oh, was that insensitive?" Augustus asked. "I can be really blind to other people's feelings." Isaac was laughing, but Patrick raised a chastening finger and said, "Augustus, please, let's return to you and your struggles. You said you fear oblivion?" "I did," Augustus answered. Patrick seemed lost. Would anyone like to speak to that?" I hadn't been in proper school in 3 years. My parents were my 2 best friends. My 3rd best friend was an author who did not know I existed. I was a fairly shy person, not the hand-raising type. And yet, just this once, I decided to speak. I looked over at Augustus Waters, who looked back at me. You could almost see through his eyes, they were so blue. "There will come a time," I said, "when all of us are dead. All of us. There will come a time when there are no human beings to remember that anyone ever existed or that our species ever did anything. There will be no one left to remember Aristotle or Cleopatra, let alone you. Everything that we did and built and wrote and thought and discovered will be forgotten, and all of this will have been for naught. Maybe that time is coming soon, and maybe it's millions of years away, but even if we survive the collapse of the sun, we won't survive forever. There was time before organisms experienced consciousness, and there will be time after. And if the inevitability of that oblivion worries you, I encourage you to ignore it. God knows that's what everyone else does." I'd learned this from my aforementioned 3rd best friend, Peter Van Houten, the reclusive author of An Imperial Affliction, the book that was as close a thing as I had to a Bible. Peter Van Houten was the only person I'd ever come across who seemed to A, understand what it's like to be dying, and B, not have died. After I finished, there was quite a long period of silence as I watched a smile spread all the way across Augustus's face. Not the crooked little smile of the boy trying to be sexy while he stared at me, but his real smile. "God damn," Augustus said quietly. "Aren't you something else?" Neither of us said anything for the rest of support group. At the end, we all had to hold hands, and Patrick led us in a prayer. Lord Jesus Christ, we are gathered here in your heart, literally in your heart, as cancer survivors. You and you alone know us as we know ourselves. Guide us to light and the life through our times of trial. We pray for Isaac's eyes, for Michael and Jamie's blood. We pray that you might heal us and that we might feel your love and your peace, which passes all understanding. And we remember in our hearts those whom we knew and loved, who have gone home to you, Maria and Cade and Joseph and Haley and Abigail and Angelina and Taylor and Gabriel, and it was a long list. The world contains a lot of dead people. And while Patrick droned on, reading the list from a sheet of paper because it was too long to memorize, I kept my eyes closed, trying to think prayerfully, but mostly imagining the day when my name would find its way onto that list, all the way at the end, when everyone had stopped listening. When Patrick was finished, we said this stupid mantra together, living our best life today, and it was over. I'm going to skip to when Augustus and Hazel actually begin speaking to each other. Augustus Waters turned to me. Literally, he said. Literally? I asked. We are literally in the heart of Jesus, he said. I thought that we were in the basement of a church, but we are literally in the heart of Jesus. Someone should tell Jesus, I said. I mean, it has to be dangerous, storing children with cancer inside your heart. I would tell him myself, Augustus said, but unfortunately, I am literally stuck inside of his heart, so he won't be able to hear me. I laughed. He shook his head, just looking at me. What? I asked. Nothing, he said. Why are you looking at me like that? Augustus half smiled. Because you're beautiful. I enjoy looking at beautiful people, and I decided a while ago not to deny myself the simpler pleasures of existence. Thank you.
How did you get the original sparkle, the first idea to this book?
Well, I started wanting to write it when I was working as a student chaplain at a children's hospital, which was in 2000, so very long time ago. And a little bit of what I wrote has survived into this book, but very little. It took many years and many false starts before I finally started to make progress on it. But the beginning of it was really that time in the hospital, thinking about whether short lives could also be good lives, whether they could be full lives, and thinking about whether there was any meaning to life in the face of such injustice and unfairness.
16-year-old girl. How difficult was that? Das Buch ist ja geschrieben aus der Perspektive eines 16-jährigen Mädchens und das ist vielleicht nicht das Allereinfachste, sich da in diese Welt hineinzudenken.
Not very difficult. I don't know why, though. It should have been difficult. It was difficult for the first 8 years, trying to write it, and then I wrote the first sentence. I remember I was in a coffee shop in India, not like a Dutch coffee shop, but a cafe in Indianapolis, and I was trying for the millionth time to write this story, and I had like 5,000 words written, and I deleted them in a fit of anger. And then I wrote the first sentence late in the winter of at the time it was 16th, late in the winter of my 16th year, my mother decided I was depressed, presumably because I rarely left the house, spent quite a lot of time in bed, read the same book over and over, ate infrequently, and devoted quite a bit of my abundant free time to thinking about death. And I wrote the period at the end of the sentence, and I was like, oh, finally. And Hazel never really left me after that. Like, I felt like she was always with me. And I don't know why or how. I don't think it was magic or anything. I know that it was inside of my brain, but yeah. Well, one of the many problems with vampires is that they never die, which assumes that there is such a thing as forever, or a worldly forever, which is super annoying. And clearly, the authors of vampire novels have not thought about this very hard, that like the sun is going to explode.
And about normal people in comparison?
Yeah, okay. Sorry. I wanted to write about, I mean, there were a lot of reasons why I wanted to write about cancer, but I wanted to look at the question of whether, you know, love is ultimately stronger than death, whether love does in some way survive, literally survive death. And whether there is, literally, really, that's the correct use of literally. And whether there is cause for what is sometimes called in the study of religion, existential hope or radical hope. The idea that hope is always available to all people, which by some definitions of all people includes, you know, the 93 billion dead people. And so that question sort of required a consideration of death and death's role in the lives of young people.
And fiction, which is good, and I accept that, and you write it in the beginning of your book. People, there are songs, there are places that really exist, and maybe you can explain about some of them. For instance, there is a Swedish hip-hop song. So why? What the heck? Was it a bet? Did you get money to mention them? Are fuzzy or filthy?
They're great. They really are.
I listened to them I had to as a research for tonight.
Yeah, aren't they good?
They are brilliant.
Yeah, no, they're really good. Go. Yeah, no, they didn't pay me. I wish. I should do that. I should include paid product placement in my novels. Yes?
There's a question over here. Does everybody need this German version?
Yeah, I think, well, some people definitely do. Yeah, yes. So you have to
Ich
live
werde
with
sie
it.
noch
I'm sorry.
kürzer halten. Ich will nicht die Zeit stehlen, aber ich glaube, die es nicht ganz verstehen, sind jetzt auch zu schüchtern, um es zuzugeben.
Ja.
Also ich mache so Mini-Übersetzungen.
Yeah. Plus, if we were in America, I would want you to translate into English. So, also for me when you come to visit me. Yeah. Swedish hip hop, I work really hard in my novels. I mean, I spent a long time writing this. I work very hard to reward critical readers and to reward thoughtful, in-depth reading and multiple rereads. I want my books to be able to be read critically and to be a rewarding experience symbolically and metaphorically. And I'm going on about that because I'm trying to think of a symbolic resonance for Swedish hip-hop, of why I might have put it in. But the truth is that I like Swedish hip-hop. And I wanted Van Houten to be the kind of person who has a lot of kind of stupid, weird, quasi-intellectual opinions, like that Swedish hip-hop is the best hip-hop, but I actually do share that opinion.
Took how long?
About 2 months, 2.5 months.
Why and how was that?
It was kind of fun. It's a lot easier than writing. I just listened to audiobooks and watched TV. I watched a lot of football. A lot. I watched like 6 hours of football every Saturday and Sunday. That was great. I did it because I promised I would do it. I wasn't happy about it. I wouldn't do it again, certainly. But when I promised I would do it, my idea was that there are all these people who live very far from cities in the United States, and all those people have no opportunity to get a signed book, ever, because authors don't go to, South Dakota. And so I thought if I just signed the whole first printing, everybody who wants a signature will get a signature, and also it would kill the market for my autograph.
I hated going on eBay and seeing my books for sale for like $400 because I had signed it. And yeah, so, and I figured it would be like 20,000, which is what most of my print runs were, all of my print runs were before, and that's not so long, that's like 6 days. But it was much more, so, but then I had already made the promise, and you can't break the promise, so I signed them.
At
Yeah,
1860. You're not even on TV here.
But yeah, no, mostly English football, but not soccer. Buying your books is the same thing as killing them, any more than like having people die in your life is the same thing as killing them.
If you already had it set out in the beginning, or does it just come as a sort of brain fart in the middle?
No. When you spend 10 years writing a book, there are not a lot of unplanned events on some level. Like, I mean, I don't know if it started like right from the beginning. It depends on how you define the beginning, I guess. But certainly before I wrote, I knew by like 2003, maybe 2004, the overall shape of the novel. And with other of my books that involve death, he said, trying to avoid spoilers. That structure of that novel was there from its very conception, yes. So I never felt like I was killing anybody because they were, in my mind, kind of already dead.
Really brilliant idea.
Well, I really, sorry. You know so much how to deal with a microphone that I don't know. I really love Venn diagrams. I've always loved them, but I saw this. I had this idea for a sort of Venn diagram love letter for a long time that I tried to work into my novel Paper Towns, and then I realized that I could do it in The Fault in Our Stars, and that it would also be a way of maybe charting, different journeys. Like they start out. Both Hazel and Augustus start out little circles inside of big circles and kind of move out of those big circles. And so, in a subtle way, it was a way of talking about that too. But yeah, mostly I just like the idea of a Venn diagram love letter.
Why Indianapolis? What do we have to know? Has anyone been in Indianapolis? Kriegst du gar nicht raus?
Just one, just two, three people. Yeah.
3 Leute. Only 3 have been there.
Yeah, we don't have as much tourism as you guys do. Tourism is not a huge industry for us. We're trying to think of something that will be like Oktoberfest, but we don't have anything yet. We have a car race, the Indianapolis 500. That's the thing that we're most famous for. And Peyton Manning, a famous American football player, he used to be on our team. Yeah, that's it. I really love Indianapolis because it is an American city in all the best ways and also all the worst ways. It's spread out, it's very suburban, it's very sort of average, it's kind of anti-intellectual in some ways even, but it's also full of great people and a lot of energy and a lot of ambition, and I like all of those things. And I wanted to, well, maybe we should say that first.
Yes, say.
Okay, I wanted to set the book there, partly because I have the advantage of knowing it really well, but partly because I wanted it to be such a contrast to the city of Amsterdam. They're both cities of canals, as it happens. Indianapolis has a lot of canals, and Hazel is, of course, canals are what keep cities like Indianapolis and Amsterdam from flooding. And Hazel's lungs are, of course, filling up with fluid that has to be drained out with this tube periodically. And I wanted to use these drowning cities as a way of different way of thinking about her drowning, I guess. But also, they're opposite cities. It's an industrial, American, suburban city where almost all of the buildings are built by people who are still alive. Versus Amsterdam, where really every building was built by a dead person. They've been extensively renovated by living people, but
they've killed all the modern architects.
Yeah. I guess there were a couple places that were bombed where they had to build a couple new buildings, but very few. And so this they were a nice contrast for me. Seriously, like during the time I was a hospital chaplain, and I guess maybe the year before that, my last year of college, I started to get really interested in fiction writing. I always wanted to be a writer of fiction. I always had this idea that I would be a novelist, but I never wrote very much. I just liked...
Interesting concept.
Yeah. No, I just pictured, I liked it turns out I don't like the life at all, but I thought I would like the life, like the, I thought like Kurt Vonnegut, it seemed to have a really good life to me. And even like after he tried to commit suicide, I was like, he's really happy. And he would insist in his books that he was miserable, and I would be like, no, you're not. You're happy. You have a great life. But then I started to write seriously when I was a chaplain. I think I was trying to process a lot of the things I was seeing and trying to kind of cope with it, and writing became a coping mechanism for me.
Hazel and of Gus, how were you then?
Yeah, not as cool as they are. I was pretty nerdy. I still am, thank you. I feel very...
How do you call it? Ventriloquist?
Ventriloquist, yeah.
Okay, no.
I was also, I was nerdy, but I wasn't a very good student, which is not a great combination. I didn't apply myself as well as I should have, and also I think I was very scared of failure and scared of being exposed as not as smart as I thought I was. And I was also sort of, in retrospect, I think, a little bit depressive and anxious, which is a lot of what separated me from my peers. But I spent a lot of time watching them and thinking about them, and a lot of that has become very useful as a writer. I mean, I spent most of my teenage years sort of sitting on a couch talking to my friends, but most of what I was doing was kind of watching them and being fascinated by them, but feeling like I was sort of seeing a different species of person than I was.
Just seemed like a good way to make money.
My understanding was that ministers were super rich. No, well, I mean, I started out studying Islam, early Islamic history, and but I myself am not a Muslim. I'm Episcopalian, Anglican, the Church of England, and I wanted to. I think what fascinated and fascinates me about religion and religious experience is that for almost all of human history, we have asked the biggest questions. The question of whether life has intrinsic meaning or whether we must construct meaning, the question of why suffering exists, the question of whether there is some kind of order in the universe. All those questions have traditionally been asked through the lens of religious traditions. Now we have these secular ways of asking the questions, but even though we have these secular ways, in a lot of ways, we still approach these questions with a bit of, I think in a similar way, because religious thought has for so long defined has defined philosophy. You know, it's been indistinguishable from philosophy. So I felt like I felt like it was a way for me to approach the big old questions with the big old people, you know, and it was, and in many ways it still is, you know. I mean, I still very much look to thinkers like Dietrich Bonhoeffer when I'm thinking about meaning and in my own life and how what decisions I should make in my own life. As you should do it as a job.
Man muss sein Hobby nicht zum Beruf machen.
Yeah, exactly. So I am still really interested in religion, and I still go to church quite often, not all the time, but sometimes. And I was talking earlier with a journalist, and I remembered something I hadn't thought about in a long time, which is that intellectually I had all of these ideas about why the universe either is totally random or appears to be totally random. Like, it looks as if the universe is completely indifferent to us. Like, the universe does not care about us, at least based on everything that we have observed so far. That problem, I had all kinds of intellectual reasons, with the help of thinkers like Bonhoeffer and Paul Tillich and mostly Germans. For how religion is still relevant in my life and still important and yada yada yada. But when I actually encountered death in young people, and when I actually encountered this radical unfairness, this deep injustice that is outside of our control, I found it unbearable. History, some theology, some picture books for little kids, quite a lot of young adult novels, which makes my life weird now because I still all the time meet authors and I'm like, oh, it's so nice to meet you, and they can quote the exact words that I used to criticize their books back to me, you know? So all kinds of books, but it was very useful. I mean, it's very helpful for a writer to read a lot. Reading is the only apprenticeship we have, I think. But it was mostly useful to read the very bad books, I think, because with the bad books, you can kind of see the strings the puppeteer is using to manipulate the puppet, right? In a really good book, you never notice the strings because you're so busy looking at the awesome puppet. But in a bad book, the strings are really obvious, and that's very useful for me. I still like to read bad books, actually, because I am still always learning about tricks writers use to make you believe that these scratches on a page are a thing.
Affliction?
Yeah.
Like, it ends in mid-sentence. Have you ever considered doing that as well? Because I was actually surprised that your book had an end.
So did I think about ending my book in the middle of the sentence? Yeah, I mean, yeah, for like 5 minutes. It just seemed like it would be sort of...
Yeah.
just annoying. And I don't like showy... I feel like so that is based on a reading experience I had when I was a young person with the great novel Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace, which is also an infuriating novel that still haunts and angers me. And I think there is a contract, as Gus says, between the reader and the writer. And you have made this promise to give me your time and to give me your best effort to read the book as well as you can read it, and I in return should not be an ass to you. So that was my hope.